Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chrys Johnson. Palpable.
I can't even fucking talk. Oh, yes. Welcome back to the podcast, man. Last time we were chatting on the podcast, it was in LA. It was like episode number 26. This is number
How many
94. This is 94.
Oh wow, yeah. So you've done a lot then since then. I mean, we were doing it in person before, so I'm back in the UK now for a bit.
Yeah. It was when I started out, I was trying to do them all in person and keep it that way, but pandemic kind of shifted everything, as we know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe it's like 2 years on, still talking about it. You know.
I know, and it's like it doesn't seem to be going away and completely, even though it kind of feels like everything is kind of normalish, but I don't know. It's strange, man. It's a strange situation. I mean, how has it affected you the most in the last year or so?
I mean, obviously getting a gig like Five Finger Death Punch and then having to shelve it directly after was a bit gutting, because obviously, we had tours, gigs lined up, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So I guess that was it. But then, I was home for like a year, something like that, and I had a studio in my my other house built and ready to go. So I thought, well, rather than just sort of sit around and feel gutted about the whole thing, why don't I just do another album? I hadn't really planned on doing another record, but I had some demos lying around and that's it. And then one thing led to another, because usually with albums for me, I don't have a general concept until sort of like halfway through or towards the end, especially with things like artwork and stuff like that. But like song wise, it usually takes one song, couple of songs, and then I'm like, okay, I think maybe I've got a sound or a theme here, and just keep rolling with it until I run out of ideas. So so that was that.
You're talking about was it CSIL?
That's the one. Yeah.
And have you revealed what the meaning is of the name?
Yeah, it was just creative solace in lockdown. That's it. I mean, to be honest with you, it was the folder on my desktop, and I was just like, I kept putting songs in there, and that was the thing, and I just couldn't think of anything else to call it. So I just used the initials, and then thought, well, I'll confuse people for a bit. It was funny seeing like some people guess what it was.
Yeah. That's my buddy Ryan kept going, damn it, why don't you ask Andy what is that? It's bothering me, man. I want to know what the hell it means.
Well, that's that was sort of the point. Yeah.
No, it's good. It's like, got to keep people guessing a little bit. It was a cool departure in a way, because you kind of shifted the vibe on that album in a bigger way than you had done previously.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I because I suppose I'd been around the sort of whole Death Punch thing for like, the last part of their tour and getting involved in, and I was still kind of in that headspace when I came back off a tour. So I guess, a lot of that stuff probably actually could have been new Death Punch material, I suppose, the way it was put together and just the general sound of it and everything. It's funny actually, because Zoe's heard that record a couple of times and been like, fuck, it sounds like something I would have written, like some of the riffs and stuff. But yeah, like, I think it's usually a snapshot in time where you are, music. That's the way I see it anyway. And I always kind of like look at all the albums I've done and I remember where I was and what I was doing. And that's it really. So that for me was just a cathartic way of getting through the lockdown without going mental, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that was written back in your studio there in the UK, right?
Yeah. So I'm back in the UK now, actually, for a bit. Obviously having a bit of a break from, because like the last 10 months been living in Vegas and stuff, doing bits and pieces, writing a new record, doing some videos. We had a couple of shows as well, a couple of festivals, one in Iowa and one in Virginia, which were really cool. There was one in Florida, but it got kind of cancelled last minute. So I only done 2 shows this year so far, and that's it.
Damn.
I think.
And it's kind of awkward that the show in Florida is the one that got canceled, because those guys are like freedom loving people like out there. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think, I don't know if it was COVID related, but the thing that we got told was there was bad weather, and it was, it was a more of a safety thing from a physical point of view, rather than, worrying about a virus or something like that. But which I know they're kind of done with it over there anyway. But
yeah, they're just like, anyway, let's keep moving on. I'm like, okay.
Well, I mean, you can't shut things down forever, I suppose. People still need to live and see people and earn money, I suppose. It's like, how long do you keep that going for before it's ends up becoming counterproductive, I suppose. So
I think we're there. I think we're still counterproductive in a lot of areas that seem divided around it. I mean, I agree with you. I think from the beginning, I think there should have been a lot more testing. And I think that there still should be a lot more testing. I mean, like if this is, where we're at, like, why aren't we putting a lot more money and emphasis on testing versus,
right.
Because we could just test it out of oblivion almost without, doing injections. I think, but that's a whole nother thing, like I'm not a scientist. I don't really know.
I never get into this whole like thing. I mean, I suppose, yeah, you're right. Like testing, I suppose testing really is like a reliable way of knowing in real time whether you're infectious or not. And I suppose that's, probably more accurate for like going in somewhere than just showing a pass saying because as I understand it, you can still catch it if you're vaccinated. So
yeah, it's a weird trade-off there, that to put all the emphasis on one thing, and now with immunity kind of waning after the injection, within 3 to 6 to 8 months afterwards, that and requiring boosters or encouraging boosters, it puts us in a weird place to, like, even the vaccinated people can be, if you haven't had the booster, or if you've been, like, some hospitals are actually registering people that haven't had a vaccine or a shot in like 8 months. They're registering them as unvaccinated because the immunity is so low. So that puts us in this weird gray area where it's like, okay, but even though these people got the shots, they're now put back into the category that the people that didn't get the shots are in. Right. And so, they're going to be chasing after the immunity part of it, indefinitely at that point. So it's a weird mess, man. It's a weird mess, and it's hard to say.
It kind of makes you think, well, how long is that going to go on for? Is that going to be forever, or until they're satisfied that it's sorted? I don't know. Like, I think that's the thing. It's like, when someone gives you directions to somewhere that you've never been before, and it always feels like it takes longer than maybe it is because you don't know where you're going. I think that's the thing. It's like, because obviously we don't know where we're going with this whole thing. So it does feel like it's been, really going on for a long time. But I suppose if someone said, right, 2024 or whatever, we're not doing it anymore, and then they stick to it, then I guess that's it. You have to just kind of get through it until then.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, honestly, it's to be super blunt. I'm like, well, it's like when the people that are making money off of all the tragedy have had their fill. That's like when gears will shift. I think, like it, and they'll probably shift a few different times to capture more and more cash before they relinquish the control on it, if they relinquish any type of control on it. Because yes, is there a health issue? Totally. There's obviously that, like the doctors and the hospitals show us that, but is there incentive, to get everybody to partake in something that maybe not everybody needs to partake in? Yeah, there's a lot of, coercion and propaganda towards that. So,
I mean, it's hard to know. It's hard to know, really. Like, you just never know with the internet, like whether you're reading anything that's true or false or whatever. I just kind of, I don't know. At this point, I'm just sort of keeping myself busy, like writing music and trying to do stuff that actually kind of brings enjoyment rather than misery. And like, so yeah.
Yeah, hallelujah to that, because like I've had to do the same. I go through waves of going, I want to know you know, the latest information. And then I'll go seek out all this latest information. Who's got the latest stats on this and that? And then that just bums me out. That just no matter what I'm doing, when I go down that path, like it all turns into this weird, like, political thing. And so then I have to go, I'm just like, well, you know, what doesn't fail me is even when I'm having a bad day in the studio writing and playing guitar, I still like it better than everything else, you know.
I mean,
everything
I was just before, like, you know, earlier today, I kind of, because I haven't really had a chance to play a lot of guitar recently, but today I've just been sitting down and sort of woodshedding and going over stuff again. But like, yeah, it's amazing that after all these, I think it's like 28 years of playing guitar or something, it still has the same effect as when I first picked it up, you know. You're just playing, and then everything else just kind of doesn't matter for the time that you're playing. And it's good for me anyway to kind of have that, and not even if I have got anything going on in my head that I don't really want to, you know, I want to break from for at least 2-3 hours or something like that. You know, you can play music, and I just get so immersed in it that I don't really have those other thoughts. So at least my brain gets a chance to have a relief from any stress, I suppose, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's actually one of the more, I mean, the more I look at it, the more I realize that it's like in yoga and meditation and stuff, you're always looking to place the attention somewhere so that you're not immersed in the 10,000 things of life, right? That you have, like, if you got one or two focal points that you can keep staying focused here, that it really builds your ability to stay focused and stay coherent by continuing to put your attention on that one thing. And you're building a skill, you know, but also getting that relief from the nagging shit that constantly gets at us, you know, whether it's bills or, you know, drama in our life. And but I saw, actually, speaking of the music and staying focused for you, I saw that you relaunched like the Andy James Academy, like 2.0. Can you kind of tell us about what's happening with that?
Well, actually, I can't take huge amount of credit for that, because my partner Nick has been doing a lot of behind the scenes work while I've been off doing loads of different stuff, bits and pieces. When we first started the Guitar Academy, we had it was just me and him. So we were like filming videos after videos after videos, just to kind of upload the stuff onto the website and have like a library of stuff that we could then have people come in and subscribe and go through all the different levels and different things that we kind of like worked out. And then we kind of like got to a point where we'd sort of exhausted that. And I was kind of adamant I didn't really want to kind of go in. I didn't want to do much teaching anymore. I was kind of like, I think I'm done with the whole like teaching thing, like sitting down, breaking everything down, because I've been doing it for so long. I think I started with Lick Library back in like 2007, something like that. 2008, something, I can't really remember, but it was a good long slog of doing that, and then Jam Track Central, and then I think I did some stuff with Jam Play, and you know, and then this as well. So yeah, all of that teaching stuff that I've done over the years, I felt like, well, I haven't really got anything else I can share at this point, you know what I mean? Because like all the time I'm teaching everything I know, I haven't really learned anything new, you know. I'm just trying to figure out new ways of being able to apply myself and what I've learned into different scenarios and going that way. So it's more sideways than it is improving, I suppose. So we kind of had like a bit of a break where I wasn't really doing some stuff with like the website, and it's just kind of like sitting there, and we were just like maintaining it and doing all that sort of stuff. And while I was trying to fulfill another destiny, I suppose, Nick's been in the background building the version 2, which has taken a lot of work, actually. I think it was pretty underestimated how much extra work it would be to get another version of this website done. And then we could start getting guest people in, and so that's the route we're going now. So we kind of changed it a little bit, so it's like Andy James Presents the Guitar Academy. So it's got all the stuff that I did, and then we're bringing in new people now to sort of give it new life and some variation, because, you know, at the end of the day, right, who wants to sit there looking at my fucking mug for however long, you know. I mean, I've got some hopefully good ideas that people like, but obviously it'd be nice to get some perspective and different approaches from other people. And I think that's the varied approach is definitely something that we've been thinking about.
That's good. Yeah, the variety's got to be helpful.
What it's about now. Yeah, exactly. And it's done so well for like other websites that have been running for years. You know, they have loads of different guitar players, different artists, different styles, all that kind of stuff. And I just think it helps to give that variety that is obviously more value for money, I suppose, than just learning one thing from one person.
Yeah, having many teachers and seeing the similar subjects from multiple different perspectives has always been of a high benefit to me, seeing as because I feel like in some ways I'm a fast learner, in other ways I'm a slow dullard, you know. So like and music, when I'm around people that are really proficient, I feel like a dullard. I feel like, oh fuck, tell me like 5 different ways so that I can better understand that. And then one of those ways eventually clicks. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
so,
well that's the thing. I mean, especially for like me, I'd like growing up learning, I always kind of took the bits that felt the most natural to play out of all the players that I looked up to and enjoyed listening to. So there'd be stuff that like John Petrucci would play, for example, in Dream Theater, that I'd be like, oh yeah, I reckon I could get my fingers around that. And then there'd be other stuff he plays where I'm just like, I'm never going to fucking be able to play that. And plus the fact I don't even know if I would have a use for that. So I just wouldn't concern myself with that stuff. I'd only really concern myself with the things that felt natural to play and that I enjoyed the sound of and that I wanted to try and get into my own style eventually, if you know what I mean. So then, you know, like other players like, you know, Zach Wilde or Malmsteen. Actually, funny enough, I saw that you had him on, what was it, like 2 podcasts ago or the last one?
Yeah, no, 2 podcasts ago, yeah.
And I watched it and then I just watched that awkward moment when you went, oh yeah, my buddy Andy James, you must have heard of him. And it was just like, no, silence. And I just laughed. I thought, yeah, of course, you know.
Well, this is the thing, man, especially in situations like that, I like to if I can interject a situation like that where we're like, oh, I mean, come on, you must have heard of the world, you know, renowned Andy James, Yngwie Malmsteen.
I know there was no response, right? Because I know how this thing works. It's like as soon as you talk, the screen comes onto you. It just stayed on you.
Yeah.
There was no like screen change, so he made no noise, nothing. So I was just like, yeah, you know what, cool. I mean,
so I was hoping that after he got off, he'd be like, who is that that person that he said that I should know, you know, like, and he would look you up.
No, I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even think he'd be that impressed because he's not really that impressed with anyone really, apart from
yeah, himself. Yeah, I mean, yeah. He was an interesting conversation because I definitely I assumed that I knew that that was going to be the case. We talked a few times, you know, in person and text with him a few times. I knew that it was kind of like, oh well, it's the Yngwie show. It's always the Yngwie show. And then I was like asking him, and he's like, yeah, man, it's the Yngwie show, and you work for me. We don't work together. You work for me. Yeah. I'm like, well, that sounds about right. It sounds appropriate. It's on brand. You know,
actually, that's kind of one of the things that I love about him is just that he just doesn't give a fuck about what anyone else thinks. I mean, he hasn't changed his like style, his approach, his everything since, you know, I first discovered like the earlier stuff that he's done. I mean, obviously that was in the 90s. I suppose I wasn't alive or old enough to understand anything about guitar music when that was actually booming onto the scene. You know, I think I must have been about 4 or 3, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, but like so many artists change, and sometimes in a lot of ways, in my opinion, not for the better. I think they're just kind of like, you know, bored of the thing that they're really good at and then just decide they want to sort of diversify a little bit. And I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking of a few people that have done that. Not that I'm going to mention them on air, but I'm kind of like, you know, that was just so much better like back in the day when they were doing this instead of that. But I realized that people have to evolve and that's it, you know, and music's an expression art. So you're not always going to be in the same place. But no, hats off to him, you know, he just owns it. And that's fucking one of the endearing things about him, I think.
Yeah, that was kind of actually what I kind of almost more than anything came away with after that conversation was that I was like, Right on, man. Like you know what you want for the most part, and you just go after that over and over again. You
Yeah.
try all these different ways, and he's got all these different, kind of little methods in his head that he's kind of evolved. But it's always in pursuit of about the same, of roughly the same thing. He's steeped in classical music, as we all know, and like, it was nice to kind of, I didn't really know that, that was a family thing, and I didn't know the story about like, him seeing Jimi Hendrix for the first, like burning his guitar, like when Jimmy died, them playing that video of him burning his guitar, and that it was like, oh, I need to go get my guitar, and like started playing. That was a cool story. I
think that happened to a lot of people. Well, I mean, a lot of people, but I think the other famous story that had that is Joe Satriani, because he did the same thing. I think he picked up the guitar. Yeah. When he heard that like Jimi Hendrix had died, I think he. I remember watching this. It might have even been on that Satch Tapes thing, the old VHS of him, probably around The Extremist, I think. And he was saying, the started guitar literally the day Jimi Hendrix died, sort of thing. So I don't know. I think that probably had like a shockwave throughout the community that spawned a lot of these guitar players that we know and love now, to the point where they just thought, fuck, I'm gonna start playing guitar because we need to keep this carrying on,
Yeah, and it's interesting that in and around Jimmy's time that he was, because it's kind of rare sometimes, I guess maybe not so much these days, but it can be rare for an artist that is groundbreaking to get the accolade that they kind of maybe are due while they're living, and for somebody's life to be cut short like that, and for the immediate response to be kind of like that. Oh, well, somebody's got to jump in here and be a guitar hero, kind of like a young, so to speak. And so, but like, it's cool to know that he was revered in that time to that point. And then, and all these years later, you look back and you're like, I mean, I still, in some ways I revere, I'm like, wow, Jimmy, by a lot of modern standards, he was like not as exacting, or he's like from a different era, right? Like we have so much higher standards about things now, but then on the other hand, you listen to it and you try to compare it to what was out at the time, and you're like, oh, this is so like just left field from a lot of the things that were coming out, even though it was, you're dealing with blues scales, dealing with all these things, they're kind of similar.
I mean, it's definitely something I've had to learn about, that sort of stuff, because like, growing up, I started discovering the guitar players that really shaped the way I play probably around 96, when I first like went to college. And I mean, I was into like Satriani, Nuno, and Slash and all that sort of stuff, but I never really discovered a lot of the other players that came along with that, with that particular group, especially like the Shrapnel era and all that. So I forgot what my point was now. What were we talking about?
Influence, Jimi Hendrix inspiring.
Oh, that's
people.
right. Yeah. So right, that's it. Yeah, my point was, so going backwards to, because obviously you start at a certain level that you're listening to, and then you start to discover all these other players, and you're like, fucking hell, I got a lot of work to do. You know what I mean? If I want to get anywhere near close to anything that any of those guys have achieved, but then predating that. So like, I think Van Halen was about as far back as I went, where I was kind of like, okay, this is where it started to get really like good now. Because I remember my brother had given me a greatest hits Van Halen, because he's quite a bit older than me. He's like 18 or 19 years older. So he kind of like was alive when that stuff was, kind of just breaking, I think. But like, he was like, yeah, you should listen to this, try and go back to further and see what you think of this. I think I kind of struggled pre anything Van Halen, especially when I'd been exposed to a lot of the newer stuff. Because to my ears, I'd just be like, this just isn't as good. Like, why would I listen to this when this is just so much better? But then I think over the years, I've had to really learn and understand what it must have been like at the time around you know, when all that stuff was happening and it was all new and nobody had heard, you know, Dream Theater or Racer X or whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of have developed an appreciation for that I didn't initially have just on first listen, that I think I've matured in that sense to understand what people enjoyed about that style of music and try and get some benefit out of that. You know, because not everything that you learn on about music or whatever is technical. You know, I mean, I think it's an overblown part of it that is only part of it, if you know what I mean. Like there's so much other stuff to understanding music and what touches people and how it sort of like transcends the instrument and the person to like millions of people around the world that obviously put this stuff on and still get a huge amount of joy out of it. So there's something to be understood there as well, you know.
That's a really good point, Andy, because a lot of like where we're at today, right? Like you said, like the technical aspect is kind of overblown in a lot of ways, and a lot of
I'm guilty of that as well, you know. So I'm not like, it's not as if I'm going, oh well, I'm not part of the problem, if you know what I mean. But
well, yeah, yes and no. Okay, so that's like I'll make a point around that because yes, you're one of the top technical guys on the planet, but you're also one of the top melodic guys on the planet. So like if you didn't bring us home with the way you play, and if you didn't find like this kind of continuous melody thing that you do, it wouldn't be interesting. We would already be, I mean, I don't want to name names either, but there's a handful of guitar players out there. I'm like, oh, like you could be just like this guy or that guy. They have speed, they have, you know, some accuracy and stuff, and they can bust out, you know, almost any arpeggio for you, but how you put them together, there is a total art form. And that's kind of what, in my opinion, that's part of like what I think it sets you a cut above the average, like a lot of shredders, right? Is your ability to always bring it home and put us in a melody, because that's the thing that a non-guitarist can enjoy also. Like like a non-guitarist can go, wow, acrobatics. Okay. Yeah. Where's something that I can sink my teeth in? Oh, here it is. It's the driving melody, right? Like, and he's bringing me home. Like, oh shit, you know, that's the thing. And I was gonna say, like, that's what Slash, and that's what like a lot of these more, you know, like less technical, but still like great. We could consider them as great guitarists. Even Clapton, and like a lot of, even though Clapton's not my favorite example, but. Just to say that, you know, like that's part of what gets revered about those guys, is that they have some like heavy emotive quality that a non-player can identify with or kind of, you know, come in contact with, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the technical aspects, I think like for me, I suppose, like, I mean, growing up with guys like Slash and stuff like that, like his playing for me personally kind of covered all of that stuff. I mean, it was technical in places, but it always seemed like it was a right fit for like whatever they were doing or whatever. And it was just, I mean, even stuff like November Rain or Don't Cry and stuff. It's just like those solos can only be that way and not any other way. I mean, I know what I mean by that, but I just think that it would just be so weird if that wasn't the solo for that song. If you know what I mean? So just kind of found the sort of vocal quality and brought out the best in like the back end of like whatever they've written for that sort of thing, I suppose. And I've always been interested in that, but the technical side of it, I suppose, seeing the level that a lot of guitar players get to, you wonder if you can achieve that as well. So I suppose there is a little bit of a competitive element in there as well. It was an itch that I had to scratch, I think, with a lot of this stuff. See how fast you could play, or because I suppose when you're younger, you're probably more impressed by that than maybe anything else. But I've learned now that, like you say, there are handfuls of guitar players out there that are like, it has to be seen to be enjoyed, because there's no way I would put the thing on in my car or just listen to it and be like, oh yeah, this is doing something for me emotionally. Like there's a lot of stuff online where I'm just like, fuck, you know, I watch it purely for the sheer entertainment value of watching a someone who's supposed to be human, but is probably got some circuit boards in there somewhere fucking playing this. But yeah, like it's funny, like I don't really listen to a lot of guitar music anymore, because I've found that I've tapped into emotional things that I enjoy, in music more than just the technical aspects of playing guitar. But there is other guitar players as well that they just play and it sounds great and you can put that on, but it's not really the core reason why I put music on anymore, whereas it used to be. I'd never listen to anything without a guitar solo in it, and it had to be tear your face off amazing, otherwise I just wasn't interested. And that was like for a lot of my life, I suppose, even while playing. But yeah, like the point that I was making before is just that when you go back to that stuff and they're not relying on that kind of thing, there really is a load of other qualities that you can learn from what they're doing, I suppose, and trying to learn to appreciate that, and then hopefully one day enjoy it for what it is rather than psychoanalyzing it. I mean, I've only really noticed it recently, but like I can go to a gig now and not worry about whether the guitar player is like ripping or probably the best in the world or not. Whereas I'd probably have like these gig experiences where I'd be standing there with my arms folded, you know, going, go on then. And then it just and then that's it. Like the whole music and the vibe and everything's just gone out the window because all you can moan about when you leave is how shit the guitar playing was.
No, that's a really interesting like kind of point, and a thing that I've been thinking about actually lately is how when we make up our mind before, like when we have it in our mind that, oh, I got to go meet with so and so, you know, and you know that they might be difficult to deal with or whatever, and you kind of, because you have a precursor, a pre-thought, a preconceived notion about how it might go, you can work up mentally and then be in a place where you kind of freeze the space between you and that person. You're like, it's already froze, it's already locked in, and so it kind of sucks, right? But like when I think that I did a lot more of that. I still find myself doing it, but I did a lot more of it when I was younger. And kind of like you're saying, like you have these expectations. If I'm going to listen to music, like I want it to be like super dope guitars and like it's got to rip my head off and got to be a reason to like have my attention. Whereas the older we get, the more relaxed we get, the more mature we are with our energy and everything. A lot of times, you know, we're open. We're like, well, what does this person have to say? It's not, I don't, you know, matter of fact, I'm kind of almost over you trying to rip my head off because everybody's trying to rip my head off all the time. And that gets old after a while. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's nice to be open and say like, well, what is this? Maybe the intention is not for that. And wow, actually, if I look around, there's a lot of music that doesn't intend to rip my head off. It's just saying, it's expressing something else. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, it was kind of like difficult to understand where I see and hear music now, because I was very much like that for a long time, just thinking, no, I'm never going to like anything that doesn't have a guitar solo in, ever. Wow. And like now it's totally different. I can listen to something that's, I don't know, complete pop with no live music on it whatsoever and still get something out of it, you know. I mean, you know, I think that's the thing. You just literally let anything wash over you, no matter what it is, and then just go, yeah, I enjoyed that, or no, I don't. But and that's it, and you move on. It's so funny though, because like, I have that either, you know, 50-50, like it, don't like it. There is a grey area where I'm like, yeah, it's all right, but you know, it just didn't do it for me or whatever. But it's not shit, you know. Objectively, it's well performed, it's well mixed or whatever, but you know, subjectively, I'm just like not that bothered, which is fine. But like, I don't understand people on YouTube and comment sections and stuff like that, how people get so fucking angry about what someone's doing. I just like, if you don't like it, man, just scroll on or do something else, you know. It's like they actually get angry at you that you've somehow ruined a portion of their life by existing and sharing a video. Hey man, the youth, you know, the youth is wasted on the young, they say, right? So like when we're young, we have more energy and more vitriol to like express. And I think we want to express and have some sense of control or, you know, authority over something. And then the older, what it sounds like to me, what you're saying is like, you know, nowadays I won't even give it my energy. If I don't like it, I'm just going to move. I mean, why would I even get upset at them not pleasing me? I'm one person out of the crowd. Like the rest of the crowd paid to be here, you know? So there's something to it, right? I
mean, yeah, like because I used to kind of get into, well, not like heated well, probably, but like someone would say something and I'd just be like, well, you know, get to the bottom of why someone said it. But funny enough, like 9 times out of 10, people just say this stuff just to be an arsehole for no reason. Because they even tell you, like I've had like situations before where I've spoken to people and like they've said, "Oh, this is shit," or "This is that," and the other, and I'm just like, "Well, you know, have you checked out this?" Or, you know, "I don't know if I agree with that. You know, maybe you should have a look at some other stuff or whatever." But yeah, you know, you have these like forth with like people, and it just continues to sort of like become more and more aggressive on their part. Like they're like angry, or I don't know, they're trying to get over some point. Anyway, the point being is they'll message me like privately and then go, "Oh yeah, sorry man, I just decided that like today I was just going to be an arsehole and just write some shit, and your post was the thing." And I'm like, fuck, I wonder how many people are actually doing this, like where they don't really hate or have any major problem with the thing that they've just seen, heard, whatever, but for some reason they just want to be aggressive and angry online, and then just decide.
Bro, even Yoga Chris has his days, man. I have my days where I want to be a dick, and I probably shouldn't be, you know, like I don't really mean to be, but like there's a few bands that suck, and I just like, and I posted about one recently. I won't even repeat it because it was silly, and then after a while it's like, oh, this isn't cool. I shouldn't be spreading hate for anybody, because like, you know, there's a big band, and it was just because I don't care for them. I just don't see, you know, every once in a while there's a band and I'm like, oh man, I don't see how anybody sees anything in that, you know, but that's just like, that's me being closed-minded in my little box and wanting
but,
to
know, but there's opinion as well, you know, like not everybody's going to like everything, so that's the thing, like everyone's entitled. I suppose it's just really down to like how you want to share that, you know what I mean? Do you do it like aggressively with like loads of fucking and cunting and all that, or do you just kind of like go, yeah, you know, it wasn't for me and these are the reasons and that's that, you know, and it's done? But I don't know.
Yeah.
Where's the fun in that, I suppose? Because if you are somebody that likes to wind people up, then you're going to do it and then go, yeah, I'm going to put this, see what comes back, and if they come back with anything aggressive, I'm just going to fucking go in. Yeah. And then that's it. That's their night's entertainment, you know, whereas some of us putting it other people go in comment sections and just rip people new arseholes.
Well, it's kind of a modern sport, the whole shit posting. Shit posting is a sport.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
You know, some people are, you know, professionals, some people are amateurs, and there's a bunch of people in between, you know. So
I mean, I suppose where it's not fun is when, you know, you think you're going to have a night in on the old shit posting, and then there's a suicide on the other end, you know, because you just never know, do you?
That's right.
You just never know, and that's kind of why I don't get involved, because you never know how bad, like, or where somebody is mentally. You know, you have to be really careful with that stuff. But
yeah, you raise a good point there. I mean, that's more kind of like actually being in tune with the energies, right? And to say, well, like I could talk some shit right now, and that would be fun for me and my circle of friends, but I don't actually know who's tuning into this. They may not like or disagree with the post, but that may be the end of the line for them, you know, to hear or engage or see that, and it tips them over. So in a lot of ways, it's like that's a case for, you know, always putting out your best foot forward, right? Always put your best energy out, you know, and like you said, hey, you don't agree with it, it's fine. Hey, this is the reason why it doesn't work for me, but you know, it's all good for you, man. Do what you need to do. I'm going to be over here and doing the thing that does work for me.
Well, I guess my point is that it's like music, like it doesn't really, I mean, it serves a purpose for a lot of people, but it is like a, you know, it's an indulgence for the individual, I suppose. It's not really a necessity if you think about it. Like it's something that kind of like, it stimulates your brain, it makes you feel a certain way, it's all that. And I suppose necessity is probably not the right word, because I know a lot of people like need music, I suppose, and it helps them and stuff like that. But like, I mean, I would understand if people are getting aggressive about things like political views or world views or whatever, or something that's actually bad that's happening or going on, and then you can understand it. But it's like, you know, music, it's just a song, it's just a set of notes strung together. And it always baffles me how people get so angry about that sort of stuff. But I don't know, it's, you know, really weird.
Seems like, well, there's something underneath that, right? There's
yeah, there must be.
like,
Yeah, there must be.
right, like there's a general unrest. There's a lot of people not taking care of themselves, or haven't been taken care of, so they haven't been shown how to take care of themselves. There's not as many good examples. Like, we have a lot of examples of excess and being, you know, there's a lot of poor people, you know, trying to be rich or trying to mirror rich people. And that rich attitude or wealthy attitude a lot of times comes across as like, I mean, you know, I'm a baller, like, so fuck it, you know, like, who cares about the environment? Who cares about your fucking feelings? Like, whatever. And so then you get a bunch of people that, you know, which on one hand, like we said about Yngwie, like, it's cool. Like, when you know what you want and you just go for it, cool, right? But also, you know, stay in your own lane and don't be harming people if you can help it, right? But like, when you kind of do it with a reckless abandon, you know, like, yeah, you're free to do that, but also your people are looking to you, and they're gonna mirror your, you know, and kind of like adapt to what you're presenting. And then you know, like, if you're in the an influencer of any kind, you know, then there's a certain responsibility that comes with that. So.
No, I get that. I mean, actually, funny enough, this sort of come up quite a lot in my career or whatever. But I suppose, like, most of the videos that I've either done, like teaching or sitting there playing guitar or whatever, I probably look way more serious than I am in real life. So I think people kind of get this mad idea that I'm, I don't know, just like, well, serious or like moody or whatever. But I don't know. That's not it, you know. I guess I'm just concentrating on what I'm doing, and I can't help this general face. It's the only one I got, and will be likely to have until I die, you know. But,
but you're also, you have to have metal face if you're playing metal guitar. Like, you know, it's like, you got to rock metal face.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess I'm not one of these that, you know, plays and just smiles constantly the whole time. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But part of me thinks, well, if you're playing heavy music and you're playing aggressive like leads and stuff, I don't know what's so funny, you know? Why are you laughing?
I mean,
no, it's not to say people can't, but I don't know. For me, it just seems like totally the wrong facial expression for what I'm putting out, I suppose.
Adam D is one of those that kind of flips that on its head a little bit, right? Because he can be out there doing that thing. He's one of the few.
But that's, you know, that's a showman thing, though. You know what I mean? I suppose videos and lessons, they're a little bit, because I suppose you're working for someone like Lick Library, which was like my first job. It's kind of institutionalized. It's like, you know, it's very serious environment. You can't be sitting there effing and jeffing and, you know, yeah. I mean, I suppose I could have done, but I don't know how long my job would have lasted doing that. It might have blown up. It might have been amazing. I don't know. But I just kind of thought, no, you know what? At least in those kind of jobs and stuff, try and be professional. And, you know, because I suppose people are coming there for a certain thing. They're not coming there to hear your like lame jokes and views on life. You know what I mean?
Hey, but that's what they're here for. Is they're here for at the podcast for your lame jokes and
exactly, yeah.
different platform. You know, it's funny. I've actually heard that a few times from other artists and people that like look up to you. You know, my friend Loida Luisi from Paraguay, or is it Uruguay? I can't remember. I'm gonna screw that up, man.
One of the
guys. Yeah, I'm sorry, Loy. But when she was visiting Kiesel, she's like, yeah, one day I hope to meet Andy James, like, but I don't know, he seems so intense, you know, like, and I'm like, oh, he's he's real intense, he's really intensely funny, and we just goof around the whole time, you know. It's like, but that's the
case in point, you know. A lot of people kind of have that impression of me, which is fine, you know, because I get to meet people and just chat, and they're like, oh yeah, you're just like a normal bloke, I can chat to you. I'm like, well, I don't just beam down for shows and then fucking go back to like, what, I don't know.
You don't?
It's mad, isn't it?
Oh, you should try beaming down for the shows and beaming out sometime. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, you know.
What was there one of your heroes that did that for you, that you kind of had like a mystique about, and then you met them and they were super chill and then kind of like put you at ease? Was there somebody?
Yeah,
like that for
Petrucci
you?
was like that. Like he was just a really nice, I say was, still is. Just a really nice, calm, um, kindly mannered sort of like person, really. You know what I mean? Just seems generally interested in anything that you want to talk about and have like a decent exchange of ideas, and that's it, really. Yeah, I like Mark Tremonti. He's a really nice guy. You know, we've kind of hung out a bunch and shredded, traded licks, sort of. That's it, really. And people that like have these sort of like massive gigs or whatever. And I don't know what your idea of it is. You just think, oh my god, and then, but you realise they're just people, and you can have a conversation, and then that's that. Who else? Yeah, I think Zach Wild is another one I've met like quite a few times, and he's just super cool, down to earth, loves to tell a story. I mean, you know this as
make
well.
up a story.
Yeah,
He'll just make up stories, dude. That's
I don't know. I mean, yeah, but it's just entertaining just being in their presence. You know what I mean? They've always got something cool to like tell you or talk about. Yeah, I haven't really met any people that I've looked up to or and been disappointed, if you know what I mean. There's still people that I haven't met. There's still people that I'm like, I don't know if I want to meet, because I'm just quite happy to have the idea that they're cool, and that's that,
Yeah. Oh, leave the mystery there.
I always try and like to meet people though, if it's something to do with work, or it's like a mutual reason for you both to be there, rather than I don't know, like just queuing up to meet somebody, or doing that whole thing. I mean, I realize that a lot of people like do that, and they have to if they want to meet like whoever they want to meet. But like, I suppose for me, I've always felt a little bit like that, because I'm a little bit socially awkward. I think that's the other thing as well. If I have like brief encounters with people, and I'm not like either in the moment doing what I'm doing or whatever, or if I'm out and about, and I'll just be like, yeah, cool. But some people think that I'm just like arrogant or don't want to talk, but usually it's some sort of social anxiety before I either get to know somebody or get their vibe, or having a drink, or just anything like that. So I suppose when I try and meet people that I want to meet, if it's in those settings, it tends to be a much more rewarding experience than it is if you're just kind of like, oh yeah, you just see someone and go, oh yeah, I've been a massive fan for years, and I'm like, yeah, get a photo, and then that's it, So yeah,
go like trying too hard to kind of like make the thing happen is a weird fan thing that I've done plenty of times in the past. A very few times kind of been denied on it, and that was always like, oh right. Shit.
Well, I think that's the other thing as well. It's like, unless because if you just see someone, like say for example, Slash was walking down the road and I just ran over, it was like, fucking hey, sign this, let's have a photo, you know what I mean? I don't know, because I was in the same room as him once, backstage at one of the Conspirators shows, because a friend of mine knew Brent, the drummer, so we were just like hanging out with him for a bit, and then but I don't know, he was literally like 2 meters away from me, and I just didn't have the art to go, what? You're the reason I started playing guitar, blah blah blah, and I just thought, oh, fuck it, you know what, maybe I'll pass across at some point and we can just, I don't know, hang out or whatever. But I would much rather that interaction than just say like, just going up to someone and going, what? And then have nothing to say apart from just
100%. That was though. I mean, the one time I got to hang out with Slash was because of work, and I had to deliver a gold wah to him, and so it was like there was hey, thank you for being like Slash and selling a bunch of wahs and being the guy, right? Like, you're cool, man. All right, cool. Take a picture. All right, cool. Picture with me. Okay, cool. All right, see you. Have a great day. Thanks for everything. I'm out of here. It was like, I could just kind of go swoop in and get out and not be too uncomfortable for too long.
Yeah.
But like I was in the same room with Eddie Van Halen at backstage at a Black Sabbath concert at the Hollywood Bowl, and he was probably 6 or 7 people away from me, and I kept like, I couldn't stop going, oh fuck. Yeah. This Eddie, right? It's right there. But I'm talking to Geezer Butler and like, their crew and stuff. And I'm like trying to think of like, is there something I can come up with to say, to kind of like go over and not be the weirdo that's like, hey, Eddie Van Halen, you know, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And
You're
then
the
just look at you
man.
and go,
Yeah.
get security.
But like looking back in a way, I'm like almost like, man, I should have fucking maybe done that. Like, you know, like,
Well, I suppose now it's,
I
yeah,
don't know.
obviously it's too
different.
late now, but yeah, that's the thing, you know. If you had those moments and you didn't take them, and then the clock runs out, and you're like, fuck, you know, had a perfect opportunity then just to say hi or whatever. But I suppose it depends on the demeanor of the other person as well, because like you're not entirely sure what kind of met if they just be like, fuck, I'm so over this now, I just want to get out there and chill out, you know. And then someone else comes over and you're like, oh right, you're like, fucking hell, okay, I was just on my way out, but yeah, go on, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but like, I mean, personally for me, I don't really ever get like that. Like if I'm at shows and stuff, and I'll hang around until the end and chat to people and, you know, and stuff like that, because I enjoy people. If they've ever been like influenced by anything I've done, or they've started playing guitar, or they're learning some of my songs or whatever, you know, they may have some questions I might be able to help them with in the moment, you know what I mean? So, or anything like that, I just totally cool with doing it. But those types of interactions are usually better as well when there's like a time and place, and you're actually there for it, because then you can kind of get into the headspace of like being able to deliver the right kind of information or attitude or whatever in the moment. But like, you know, everybody's human. Like there's not always going to be times where you're like in the mood to sort of hang out and stuff, but like generally around shows and meet and greets and all that sort of stuff, and or if you're doing clinics, or, you know, you're already in that headspace anyway, so it's a lot easier to kind of deal with that sort of stuff. So, you know,
yeah, it's kind of part of the territory, right? Like I see the best, a lot of the best artists kind of are able to really partition that and go, oh no, this part of my day is for that. So like, I'm going to be as available as possible and as open as possible to give you what you need, because you guys paid to be here, or you bought my CD or whatever. Like you participated in my success. And the least I could do is, since I'm standing here, is, you know, give you a couple words back to help, you know, kind of complete the circuit. You know, it kind of helps complete the circuit. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I know you're still playing the AJ pick, right?
Yep.
But you kind of deviated for a little while. You were on triangles again for a little while, or what happened there for a minute?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been using the AJ, these ones.
Yeah.
Just to prove that I am using them. They're here because I've been doing some recording. Yeah, so I've been using those for like since the launch that, you know, we did and stuff. And then I kind of moved from those to the next gauge up, which is like a 3mm with the grip on.
Yeah.
So I was finding for a while they were actually doing me a lot of favors playing 8-string guitars, weirdly enough. Really? I feel like the thicker the gauge, the thicker the pick needs to be for me for some reason. So like the 2mm just wasn't really helping me too much on an 8-string. And I was doing that for a short period. And then so I sort of like changed. And then when I got the call to go and do 5-finger Death Punch, I was still using those 3mm on tour with the grip and stuff. But about 5 or 6 shows in, I was realizing that some of the clean and acoustic stuff was struggling using that thickness. So there was a few different picks on tour. Some of them were like, Zoe uses like that sort of like twisted speed pick. So it's kind of like where you can angle the pick, but the end of the pick is still flat to the string. So that's kind of how he gets that real percussive sort of sound to his playing. Okay. It kind of doesn't suit me with the way my hand is and stuff like that. So there was some other picks on tour. We had some white T3s, I think, sharps.
Okay. Yeah. Tortex.
So I was kind of using those for the last 2 or 3 shows on that. And then when I got home, I started to reevaluate what pick would work with the gig, because ultimately you just want to use one pick that works for everything. And because I've been doing instrumental guitar playing for a long period of time leading up to that moment, since doing my whatever last band I was in, that my AJ pick just works perfectly for that, because like playing continuous solos and stuff, it's the best pick for that kind of thing. But like rhythms and cleans and, you know, a pick that can kind of like do everything, it's hard to find that for me anyway. So I tend to kind of like use picks that serve a purpose for whatever I'm doing, and obviously with this band it's mostly just like rhythm guitar and clean acoustic, and then like leads as well, so it kind of covers everything. So yeah, I started messing around with the .88 like triangle old text picks, and actually my whole last record that I did, I used one of those for everything, rhythms, leads, the whole thing, and it had a really nice tone to it, and it also felt comfortable staying as well. So I was kind of like using that for a while, but then I don't know, like I woke up one day and it just didn't feel good anymore. It's so weird how that happens, but you're just like, oh, I'm really not getting what I need out of this pick anymore. So I kind of went to the T3s and was playing them for a bit, and then I tried the triangles, but in the black old text, which is, again, it's not quite as snappy, still the same gauge, but they're really good for acoustic actually. So I do use those for more acoustic playing and stuff. I like that they don't really have any sort of overbearing tonal qualities by themselves. You just get like pure note when you play like the acoustic, so it's not scraping or anything like that. But I suppose recently I've just been, when we were doing rehearsals again for doing the live shows and stuff, I had all these like picks on top of a guitar cab. Like Roy, my guitar tech, is just constantly going, oh yeah, what pick are you going to use today then, you know? Because you know, we haven't been working together that long, but it's already like he knows me inside out. But yeah, so I just had like this sort of pile on the top of the cab behind me, and we were just like playing different songs and stuff like that. And I don't know, I started falling in love with the Andy Jones pick again, because it seemed to just do everything that I wanted. But I think it's a different setup. You know, we're using more of my setup now, because I was using Jason Hook's rig because halfway through the tour we had this whole thing, and we didn't have a whole lot of chance to figure out something else. So I literally just had to plug into his rig and finish the tour. And it's great, you know, it sounds great, really easy to play and all that kind of stuff. But I think tonally, it was a little bit different for me, and that's why it sent me on that pick rampage trying to find something. But now I've got the opportunity to use my own setup with the band and stuff, because we've been through like loads of different amps, different setups and stuff, and in the end we've just decided to stick with the Kemper and my setup and the tones that I made like 7 years ago with my bass player that started off the whole
Is that Josh?
tones thing. No, it's my other friend Craig.
Oh,
he came into Sacred Mother Tongue later on towards the end, but he's like a sort of like recording guy, you know, about mics and studios and all that stuff. So we rented a studio one day, and we had to do some tones for STL Tones anyway, because I was just then getting involved with them, and we needed to get some heads, cabs, make some different tones for a pack that we were going to release for Kemper. But some of the tones that we ended up getting, because what you end up doing is we kind of like make all the tones, we document all the mics and everything that we use, cabs, everything like that. And then STL has a process of being able to kind of like match that perfectly if you give them everything that you've documented. And that's kind of how we built the Kemper pack like that. So I've still got some of the original tones that I made before they were then recreated for the thing, and like they matched them like almost perfectly. But there's still some, I don't know, some things that I just enjoy about the original capture of like some of the tones that we got that I still use. So I've just been using those for like my live tones for like rhythm lead for years, and I haven't found anything that kind of is better, especially going direct or for in-ears or for anything like that. So we went through all these like different setups and stuff like that, and in the end we just got a powered Kemper and ran it. We sort of like run it like mono split into two cabs on stage, and then that goes to like the front house and stuff, and it just sounds monstrous, you know. It's like, well, this is it, this is my tone, this is how I play. And I don't know, like I think I kind of, the quest for tone finished a long time for me when I kind of had that day in the studio with Craig, and I was like, fuck, captured lightning in a bottle and I haven't really upped it, you know.
And didn't you say in the process of when we were talking there in Vegas a few months back, like you were talking about how you kind of influenced Zoe to like do a similar setup or something like that, so you guys kind of match tones a little bit, or am
I
I
think so.
remembering that wrong?
Yeah, because I think I mean he's been playing like diamond heads and cabs for like the pretty much the big since the beginning of Death Punch. I don't know if he's necessarily going to like change from that, but I think he was just intrigued to know that like technology had moved on that far, that it was just like, because I had because we profiled a couple of his original guitar tones that they used back in the early days of like Death Punch, and I think they've been using tones similar because it tone is like kind of sit there and carefully crafted and then used for like pretty much all of the records in varying degrees. You know, obviously they've EQ'd it differently and stuff like that, but it's always pretty much the same bass guitar tone. But I decided to like profile him in the studio one day because he hadn't really sat down with a Kemper and stuff like that, and we were in his home studio in Vegas. And I was just like, well, let me kind of like, you know, profile you and see how you get on with that. I think there are profiles that exist of this, what we did, but he'd never done it like in person with me, and we just sat down and did it. And he was just like blown away by how accurately like everything was captured, even down to the way he plays. Because he's very much like a feel player in terms of like how he kind of like palm mutes certain things or how he picks certain things. He's like really particular about that stuff. So I think he wanted to see if this would capture that as well. And so we both profiled the same tones and same playing, same guitar, same everything, but the actual algorithm in the Kemper came out quite a bit different because it kind of picked up our inflections and how we played as well, which I thought was interesting. But he was kind of like blown away by that. So I think Kemper's been on his radar more so since then. And then when we were at rehearsals, I actually dialed up one of those tones that we profiled and just put it through like the cabs and stuff, and I think he was like definitely into it. But I don't know if it's, you know, if he's going to change his whole thing, because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know. And he's been using the same stuff since the beginning of the band, and it's always served him well, you know. So I don't know. You never know.
That's cool, man. Thanks for the insight on the rig, man, and the tones. I know that the STL tones thing seems to be doing well. A lot of people seem to really like that, and that they can get your vibe right in the box there like that.
Well, the plugin was more when we decided to do that. That was more capturing like recorded tones that I'd done over like certain albums and stuff like that with heads that I know that I like in real life. So that's like the EVH 3, and then we got like the 6505 as well, which I used for a long time before I went like, you know, fully digital. And then like we managed to get an AC30 on like the cleans as well, which was great because the AC30s are like some of the best amps in the world for like getting that pure clean sound, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was more of like, right, okay, you can put it on an insert on your DAW or whatever, and then just load up a preset and be like, fuck, this is pretty much done. You haven't really got to do a lot to it, you know what I mean? But those guys over at STL, they really know what they're doing, you know what I mean? Like if you get any ideas and stuff, they just seem to be able to create it. And there's never really been a time where they've sent me anything or worked on anything and sent me it and I've been like, I'm not sure about this. Everything they sent me has just been like, fuck, I could use that and literally just turn it up.
Yeah. And is the pedal that you guys made together, is that still in circulation, or was that a limited run?
It was a limited run. We did a couple of limited runs of those. I don't know. I don't know if we've had any ideas to like do that again. I haven't spoke to the guys in a while actually, but it's because obviously they've been dealing with different artists and I've been doing my own thing. So I think maybe now's the time to sort of reconvene the ideas that we might want to do or upgrade or whatever. But the actual pedal there's a plug. It's in the plugin as well, so you can use that for like, you know, leads and stuff. Like I have a couple of presets where the pedal is the sole tone driver for like all of the lead stuff, which I use. I mean, I've been using it today, like just tracking some leads and doing bits and pieces. It's great for that because it's such a good tone and inspiring to come up with ideas. But a lot of the time, you might just want the DI to send to, say, like if I'm tracking any solos here and I want the DIs or whatever, and then send to Kevin Sherco to put in like any of the new stuff that we're working on, then he has that and he can, you know, work with that. But like for me, from an inspirational point of view alone, just being able to plug into that and have like the tone that suits me the best, to be able to come up with the best ideas is invaluable, I think. And then it's literally one cable into your interface and then away you go.
That's great.
Mad,
That's
really.
got to be a really cool tool. I would love to, when they come back around, I'll have to try to pick one up.
Yeah.
It'd be cool. Now, so you spent most of the last year in Vegas, and you have a spot there, obviously, because that's where the band's at.
Yeah.
And like, what's life been like for a Brit living in the U.S. for the first good long stretch? Is there any revelations? Is anything that you realized about us wild and crazy Americans that you didn't know about us before?
I mean, living in the desert is fucking hot and dry, so there's that. So yeah, like struggling with like allergies, which I'd never had before, so that was kind of bad when that started kicking off. At the beginning of the summer, it was just like, oh my god, I've never experienced just the amount of congestion and streaming shit coming out of my face and not being able to breathe for ages. So I kind of, you know, managed to get through my first Vegas summer. Hopefully the next one might be as bad if I'm over there, but as I believe it, I think we'll probably be on tour anyway. But yeah, it's cool. I eat way less, believe it or not, actually, I eat way less crap and when I'm in America. But you might think that, you know, you probably eat more candy or chocolate or crisps or whatever, or sorry, chips. But yeah, like, I don't know, I just eat way less because I've noticed since being back in the UK, I've fucking eaten chocolate and crisps like it's going out of fashion, you know? So that's not a good thing. I'm actually healthier living in America than I am in England. So that's probably a good thing. But yeah, I'll just come back for a bit just to, you know, see some friends, family, and just, you know, have a bit of a change of scene or whatever. But I think I'll probably be going back fairly soon, get ready for like next year and finish off the record and all that stuff.
Yeah, so you have the new record to finish with Five Finger Death Punch, and then there's a European tour. Is that the first tour that's coming up in like June or something?
It's the first one that's we've got any posters to like share and stuff like that. I think there is a tour happening just before that, but I guess the logistics are still being sorted out on that. Sure. But yeah, any of the stuff that's gone out on social media is the stuff that's definitely happening. So the European tour, it's funny, a lot of people are going, oh, there's no UK dates, there's no, and it's like, well, yeah, but we're not part of Europe anymore, you know. Oof. So I think people still like, you know, getting their head around that, thinking, oh, you know, it should automatically be included because it's a European tour. But yeah, technically we're not Europe anymore. I don't know the reason why there's no UK shows on there anyway. I don't get involved in all that. They just say, oh yeah, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. Sure. And that's it. That's like Zoltan's world. That's nothing to do with me. I don't. Just I'll go over there, play, and you know, come up with some solos and write some bits and pieces, and that's pretty much it, really.
How are you feeling about the new album so far?
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely weird, kind of having been a fan of the band for so long, and then actually hearing some of this stuff back with like me playing on it.
I bet.
But it's cool. I mean, it's definitely a good fit, I think. You know, because like hearing, even from a fan's point of view, I'm not hearing it thinking, wow, this sounds like this isn't the same band anymore. You know, so that's pretty cool. But then they've actually been fairly open, like saying, you know, if you've got any ideas or whatever, then just shoot them over, and if they're cool, we can work on them, and that's it. Like there was no like screen up going, well, no, you know, we've hired you to do a specific thing, and that's it. So they've really made me feel like part of the band, which I guess I was kind of hoping that would happen, but I wasn't expecting it, you know what I mean? But like,
sure.
Since being in like living in Vegas for like the last 10 months or whatever, I've got to know the guys like really well, and it just feels like a unit, you know, a solid unit. Everyone gets on, you know, we have a laugh, and that's it.
That's great, man. I'm glad. I can't wait to hear that record and hear how you've, you know, slid right into that position because
Yeah.
I mean we've talked about it before, man. Like I mean when we first met, which is like now like at least 10 years ago or something
It's
like that.
got,
Or
yeah, it's got to be that at
yeah,
least. Yeah.
like when you were still in Sacred Mother Tongue and dropping, and I just saw you posted a thing like it was roughly like 10 years ago. When was it the first Sacred Mother Tongue album dropped? Like 10
Yeah.
years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2008. Was it 2008 or not? Yeah. So I think it was over like 10 years maybe.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
Yeah. Oof. Yeah, I mean, and like I remember having long conversations driving to EMG TV and whatnot, and
the Cube.
talking about the Cube, and talking about like, man, do I stay doing this solo thing? I really want a band. I want to be in a band. Like I that echoed in my brain, and it's like all these years later, I'm like, I'm so excited, I'm so happy, and this was one of like the three bands that you mentioned. You're like Kill Switch, Black Label Society, Five Finger Death Punch. I would do good in any of those
Yeah.
bands. And I'm like, you're right, you would. And here you are. You're like, you got one of the three. So congratulations.
Well,
Man.
yeah. Funnily enough, though, like that whole deciding whether to do like one thing or the other, I don't know, because I think in the end I must have just come to the conclusion that like, why not just do both? Be in a band and still do the solo thing. I think the solo thing for me is always something that I've been solely in control of by myself, and it's not been at the mercy of any other band members or drama or management or any of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's just my thing. I just sit with my computer and a guitar and come up with these ideas and try and pour myself into that. And I think ultimately carrying on with the solo thing, even though I've been in like various bands and stuff over the years, is kind of the thing that put me on the radar to do what I'm doing now. Because, well, I mean, like Charlie, for example, was Angel Vivaldi's drummer, and he also played for Scale Summit.
Oh yeah.
So we did that tour back in 2017, 18, something like that. So I already knew Charlie before he joined Five Finger. And then I think through Charlie, because Zoltan's always like on Instagram, like looking at, guitar players and stuff. He's kind of like me, likes to just keep his finger on the pulse of like who's around, what's going on and all that sort of stuff. And I think one of my videos came up and he was like saying to Charlie, oh, check out this guy or whatever. And Charlie was like, oh yeah, I know him. Like, and then he was sort of saying, oh yeah, one of his favorite bands is Five Finger Death Punch. And he was like, what? Why?
Why?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. He kind of got it into his head that maybe, people that sort of play the kind of music that I do and do that kind of thing wouldn't it really be interested in that sort of thing. But again, I suppose it's, I mean, even though they're still a heavy band and they play, like that kind of thing, that's more of a commercial band that have success beyond just the sort of like, the technical and all that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? So I guess my appreciation for like, songwriting, production and all that sort of stuff has kind of ventured outside of the instrumental guitar genre and anything that's like maybe more progressive or a bit more kind of niche in its genre, to then appreciate stuff like that, you know what I mean? So that's kind of one of what I was talking about earlier, about allowing other things to sort of like come into your life that you're listening to, that you're not necessarily scratching the itch of the technical ability or the face melting solos and stuff like that, although they have managed to incorporate that into their sound and still be massively successful that they are, because obviously, with the riffs and stuff like that, having like been in the band and having to learn that stuff and play it live and all the rest of it, it is actually really challenging, some of the stuff that like Zoe's written, and you're like, fucking hell, you got to been playing a few years to get your head around that, definitely. And then obviously, Jason, he's been in the band since 2012, 2000 something, so American Capitalist, I think. War is the Answer. So whenever that came out, 2009, I think. And obviously he's been laying down the solos for that band since I came in. So, and some of that stuff is like, it can twist your fingers up, so you have to you have to be good in order to be able to, you can't just, it's not a gig where anybody could just walk in and go, oh yeah. Because I know that's the perception that people have. You know, they think, well,
Right.
you know, they're like massively successful. They have like these radio hits and all that. You know, anyone could play that. It's just like 3 chords and just, but that's really not the case. You know what I mean? It's, you know.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of the kind of the extra bonus of the whole thing of from, you know, our history and conversations is for you to land one of the 3 bands that you had mentioned all those years ago and it be the most successful out of the 3 bands. You know, it's like, I mean, Black Label Society has got its own like thing because Zach is, you know, arguably one of the biggest guitar players in the world and close to, you know, if not a household name, right? Because of Ozzy and all that. But and Killswitch, man, everybody loves most people love Killswitch. Kerry King does not love Killswitch. But but most of us you know, good, honest, reasonable people, we give a fuck about Killswitch because they're good songwriters and put out good albums.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but they're, you know, kind of seen as the metalcore pioneers, I suppose, even though there was a few other people doing it at the same time. Like, they just made it massively popular, especially with like End of the Heartache and all that stuff, you know. And that was pretty much my introduction into metal, you know, was hearing that song on Scuzz or something. It was that and Rose of Sharon or whatever. And I was just like, who the fuck is this band? And I remember going, right, I'm going to go and get one of their records because the End of the Heartache came on. I loved the song. I thought it was amazing. And I went to the record shop and I was just like, oh, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the fucking song. And I saw they had like a couple of albums and stuff. So I just thought, oh yeah, this one might be it. And I looked on the back and I thought, yeah, this could be the song that I heard or whatever. But it turned out it was Alive with Just Breathing and it was with a different singer. Because when I put it on, I was just like, this isn't the band. I mean, it was cool because I thought, well, this sounds like the sort of thing they were doing, but the guy's not the same vocalist.
It was the first record with Jesse, is what it was.
Yeah, Jesse was on the first record. Yeah. So then I kind of did some digging and I found out that the album I should have got was End of Heartache. But I ended up discovering the other one, and it's still one of my favorite records of theirs. So, but then so there's that, and then obviously, you know, Black Label. I mean, Dario's been in that band for how long now? But yeah, he's a great guitar player as well. You know what I mean? So he's a perfect fit for that band.
He is. It's cool. I would have loved to seen you know, you get a chance at that though, just because I think that you and Zach would get along famously, to be honest. Like that's kind of the couple times that I've been able to get you guys in the room and stuff. I don't know. There's a certain vibe, and but also too, like I think you're probably the best fit for where you're at. Like, to be honest, like
I think so. Yeah. Because
I mean, I hate to see you outshine Zach, dude. That'd be messed up. Bro. That'd be messed up.
I don't think that would happen. Like, I mean, I'd probably get like a shot to do some stuff, but no, I think, you know, where I'm at and what I'm doing is probably I would say now, being in it and my involvement moving forward with it and everything else, it's kind of the only fit for me and a band like that, because you know, they're really successful. They write great stuff. It's a great camp to be in. Plus the fact that all of the facets of my own playing, I have to kind of, you know, delve into like different bags. Like obviously, you know, playing acoustic stuff, clean stuff, solos, rhythms. You know, I mean, like it's a gig for all seasons, really. So for a player like me, it's actually really rewarding, kind of like doing this, and obviously, you know, the gigs that they do and stuff like that as well. It's funny, you know, I do see like people commenting and going, oh, you could have done so much better, and like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, yeah, you know what, I mean, as much as people say about the whole instrumental thing and that I should still be doing that, and which I am, you know, when I get a song and I get something cool, I'll put it out, but my focus just hasn't been there lately, obviously. But I would just, I mean, I can't imagine being a solo guitar player and being able to play to like 10,000-15,000 people in an arena, like, ever in my career. And not that that's like I suppose the be all and end all for a lot of musicians. They just want to do it, I suppose, because of the self-gratification they get out of it, which I get as well, you know what I mean? That's why I still do my own stuff. But like, I don't know, like it's almost if people are talking to me like I didn't choose to do that gig, or I don't enjoy doing that gig, or I'm just doing it for some, you know, paycheck that, you know, they think I'm getting or whatever. But yeah, it's none of it. Literally, Zoe called me and went, "We need you to come out and finish this tour." We got on great. The gigs are great. I like the songs, obviously being a fan, and I get to kind of like do what I do in a band that is at that level. So I don't know. Like there was never any doubt in my mind that that's what I wanted to do. I never thought, oh God, well, I'll do this for now, and then, you know, I'll bow out when I feel like I've got what I want out of it. You know, what I mean? It's never that's never even crossed my mind. So I don't know. People have their own perception about that kind of thing, but for me, you know, it ticked every box. I was just like, yeah, you know, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be as a guitarist, you know. And I guess inadvertently in the back of my mind, I was thinking I always wanted to work to get to this point. I suppose that's the thing with any destination, though. You kind of see like a broad destination, and then you have to kind of like worry about the individual steps to get to that eventually. And I guess for me, that was just, you know, doing guitar videos and writing solo albums and being bands and a lot of touring. And I guess over the years, it's just kind of led me to this place, I suppose. But, you know, all at the same time, just trying to be kind of like, you know, a genuine person and just kind of like getting on and having good business interactions with people and just generally like working hard. And I don't know, I feel like that's kind of like paid off. I never really tried to fuck anyone over or do anything to somebody else in order to kind of get ahead. You know what I mean? I just feel like good, honest, hard work. And that's it, really.
Well, I think that's your reputation seems, you know, in the industry. I mean, and it helps, like, you work with one or two people, and me being one of those guys along the way, and other people ask me about you, and, you know, anybody asks about you, they're like, oh man, I get along with Andy. I like hanging out with them, and great player and whatever, you know, like, so like, and having that earthy kind of, you know, street level attitude as you've ascended the ranks, you know, and got more and more traffic, more and more attention, and then getting this gig, you know, you've had some other little gigs that kind of surfaced around, you know, too, which is really cool. But like, it all kind of led to this thing, you know, and like this thing, like you said, it seems like a real sincere fit. And I know for sure, you know, like, because we've had this conversation so many years ago, like, I know that like it was like, not like, oh yeah, I'll just go in there and take a gig for a while and then like see what comes next. Just like, that's not the intention that you would have. You're like, no, I want to go in there and see if can I actually assimilate into this band and be a part and help them do the thing that they've been doing and want to continue doing. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know?
It's never really been like, right, well, let's just do this and see what I can get out of it. You know, it's like, well, I mean, obviously you don't do anything in life for free. So you need some sort of, you need it to be for some reason or other. But I guess I've always kind of gone into stuff and thought, well, what can I bring to it that's going to either, you know, help make it better or like, yeah. So I guess it's always been a two-way thing. It's like, look, what can I do to kind of like make this better or keep it going or whatever. And then obviously, hopefully as like an offshoot of that, you sort of end up getting further in life to a more comfortable position, I suppose. Yeah. But that's always been a byproduct. It's never been the focus. Like I've never been money orientated either. You know what I mean? So I'm not like, oh yeah, now I'm gonna, you know, start spending like loads of money and stuff like that. The only thing I'm happy about, like the music's given to me, is the fact that I can get up on any given day, and if I don't want to fucking do anything, I don't have to. And I guess that was always the dream after having like so many shit jobs, having to get up at like 6-7 o'clock in the morning to go and trim lettuces or fucking serve coffee. You know, it's like, yeah, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. So I suppose I worked to a point where I could then do music and then have the freedom in life to just sort of pick and choose what I wanted to do, you know. But
so there was a time when you trimmed lettuces.
Yeah.
Did you trim lettuce?
I did trim lettuces, yeah.
It's like a supermarket or something, market of some kind?
No,
you were working the produce?
It's just a factory, you know, so you go in there, you know, you have to basically just take the cores out of these like lettuces and then they get sent off to be chopped and packed in, you know.
I see.
I mean, it was a pretty like I mean, I guess it's an important job. If you like lettuce and you like to receive it in a certain way, there are people out there that care about how your lettuce gets in that packet. And I guess I was one of those people for a summer, you know. But it was like, you know, you get like a brown envelope with some money in it, and you think, yeah, fuck, I'm going to go out on the piss now. And that was it. It was just like beer tokens.
Yeah.
But that's you just kind of realize that you have to, like, you know, work to get money. Like, I didn't get given, you know, money to go out on the piss with or buy stuff or whatever. You know, everything I've kind of had to just do by myself. But I think I always realized I wanted to be like independent. So I was like 18, I think, when I left home, and I haven't been back.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's great, man. It's a great success story that for those out there that are, you know, somewhere in their career, not sure where they're going to land or how it's going to work out. Like when I look at you, I see a model of like staying, you know, like you found what you did well, like in through an avenue of kind of like matching vibe. A lot of what you got known for was doing the styles, right? Like I'm gonna do a style of this and do a style of Petrucci or do a style of Zach or something. And then like through a lot of that hard work and determination of like refining your craft, you know, over the years, and there was multiple moments where you're kind of like, shit, man, should I quit doing this and do, you know, like we kind of talked, and it's like, it's just
I've had that, definitely. Well, I just like, oh, do you know what? Fuck this. I'm just gonna, you know, because you have that. You know, I think anybody that's ever like managed to get to a certain level doing anything has probably along the way had that thought of like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm seemingly not getting paid that much money. I'm struggling like fuck to get anyone to, like, you know, listen to me or whatever. And then you have these moments where you just like moan. If you're like me, I do like the old comedy moan now and again. But yeah, it's like, but then you just kind of brush it off. You get up the next day and you're like, right, okay, rather than, you know, moaning and whining about stuff, which, you know, it's fun for a bit, maybe more for me than it is for anyone else around listening to it. But you kind of realize that that's not going to change anything. And you're like, fuck, well, what do I need to do? What's the next thing that I can do now that's within my power and within my financial grasp to do? And I think that's it. Like, you know, you've always just got to focus on the next step. You're not even looking 2 or 3 steps ahead because it can seem like daunting. I mean, imagine if I started playing guitar and then it's like, right, I want to be in an arena band. I don't know. I didn't know anybody in the music industry. I wouldn't have known how to do that. I probably would have tried for 6 months and failed and just gone, well, it's obviously not for me. But like, I think those kind of things, they come out of just enjoying like the process, and like whatever you do gradually throughout your life, you just kind of have this background faith that something is going to work out if you just stay in it long enough. If you just keep plodding along and keep doing it, keep chipping away, eventually, if you're good and, you know, you have like good relationships with people and stuff like that, then eventually I suppose that phone will go one day and something major will change your life. I mean, even if it doesn't, you can still enjoy the process and improve as a person and as a player, musician, whatever it is that you're doing. Because if you just stay in your comfort zone the whole time and just stay doing the one thing, you're never really going to transcend to another place that you quite often probably dream about, but just never really get there, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, there's, you know, at the same time, there's plenty of people that are out there buying like STL tones and buying your picks and buying your Kiesel guitars and maybe we'll never even finish even learning one Andy James song, or like only know a few licks but you know, they're kind of the unsung heroes of like the musical like industry, the musical instrument industry and stuff in a way, because you know, just like the weekend warriors, people that like just enjoy playing guitar, because some people, right, like they're destined for greatness. You being one of the guys, you had the determination, you're like, okay, I'm going to stay with it. And then there's the rest of us that just love guitar, like we watch your stuff and we're like, man, like I'll never play that, but it makes me want to play. It makes me want to find my own thing. And maybe I'll make, some little songs or album or something that like 10 of my friends will hear, and we'll all kick back and go, man, that was cool, you know, and like it doesn't go anywhere. But like there's a certain, because when you fall in love with the process of something, when you fall in love with, oh wow, the feeling I get just being in the room with my bandmates or whatever it might be, figuring out a lick for myself, that's kind of like, to me, that's kind of just like what it's all about. If it goes into something else, well, then that's, you know, that's a whole nother thing you get to cross, a bridge you get to cross. But it, like you said, kind of like if you were to set out and go, okay, I've got my guitar, I'm getting my first lesson tomorrow, I'm going to be on stage with Five Finger Death Punch. And, you know, it's like, you can't, that's a weird cart before the horse type of thing.
Yeah,
Some
kind
people,
of.
yeah.
I think
Doesn't mean,
it depends on the type of person you are, because there's no doubt there probably is someone out there that would be able to do that and be like, bang.
it's a Babe Ruth thing. It's like you step up and you're like pointing at the fences. You're like,
yeah.
But
I mean, but yeah, for me personally, I just think if I'd have kind of thought about it on that scale, I probably would have just not done it.
Yeah.
I have to kind of like, because I'm not a multitasker and I'm not a multi-thinker. Like I have to just concentrate on the one thing that I'm doing, and that's it. And plus, the fact, you know, it's about you know, weekend guitar players or people that just like buy this stuff because they enjoy it and they love it and it's just a recreational hobby or whatever. Like, you know, what I'm saying doesn't really necessarily just apply to being a guitar player. I suppose it applies to anything. I suppose for me, I thought, well, if I don't at least give this a proper shot, I'm not good at anything else. So I'm only ever going to be doing, you know, jobs that I don't get any enjoyment out of whatsoever. So it's like, I suppose that was the driver for me. But like, you know, like you say, you buy guitars, you probably get them for free now, don't you? Or you know, you do, but you're good with people, you know, you're a people person, you're great with that sort of thing. And that's obviously something that you've managed to make work for yourself over the years, you know what I mean? So like, but that's a different thing, you know, you obviously have to start somewhere, and then before you know it, you're working with like, you know, Metallica and Slash and Slayer and all that, doing what you do. So it's like, it always starts somewhere, I guess. Some people don't even know what they want to do. They just know what their trait is. Because it might not be like a real world thing that you can actually do with your hands. It's just a personality trait that is good. And then that allows you to get into other jobs, looking after people or hospitality or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So maybe there is no end goal. You just keep going up and up and up.
Yeah. Until there isn't anything, you know, until whatever stops us in our tracks.
Well,
yeah. Oh, it's the big one, right? Like there's, you know, like that's one of the things that I actually, and I know we've talked about it in the past, but like one of the interesting things for me with all my ambitions in life, because, you know, I have found a thread for myself in product development and in artist relations, and, you know, from multiple companies, and have multiple products out there that I can look out and go, oh man, the EMG 5766, I remember that, man, I was a part of that.
Yeah.
You know, oh, the Geezer Butler signature set, oh, the Ampeg B15 Heritage Edition, you know, on the Dunlop Flow, and like
exactly
a couple wah pedals, you know, I was a part of those things, and that's cool. The ambition is it's cool to find a thread. It's cool to find a bit of you know, something that you're good at, and then lean into it and try to, like, you know, express it in a deeper way. And then I look back, you know, and it's like, well, they say, you know, you can't rest on your laurels, right? Like you got to keep moving and that whole deal. But as I get older, the more I consider, I'm like, it's interesting that we stack up all these achievements, you know, whether it be albums, whether it be tours, whether it be products, you know, developed or whatever. But eventually, like, and I know a lot of people say they speak about, especially like rappers and hip hoppers and stuff like that. They say, oh, I'm working on my legacy, what I'm going to leave behind, you know? And I think that's it's kind of a classic thing for people to say, you know, especially if they plan to have kids or have kids, you know, and then like, this is what my legacy I leave behind for my kids and their kids and stuff like that. But, you know, if you really have any sense of time, like, we're just like, where we're at in history is such a blip, and like everything that we do is going to be eventually like incinerated and when the sun explodes, you know? So
yeah,
like,
fuck it. What's the point? You know?
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm getting at. So fuck it, what's the point? So like, but you know, I think that I need that check sometimes, right? Like I need to because it's easy to get serious or maybe a little clinchy, a little tight around like your goals or things, and then it's like, well, maybe back off and hold it a little looser and kind of like, is it worth it? Is it worth the effort? In some cases, we say yes. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it, man. The sun's gonna explode. I better go give this a shot. You know, or
we've got a while before that happens, though.
Yeah, we do got a while, but you know, time is such a like ultimately. Yeah, yes, you're correct. Like we're in a window, right? We're in a window of you know, of somewhat normality or peacetime, but it only takes one big volcano. It only takes one dummy fucking dropping a bomb. It only takes one asteroid. It only takes, you know, one thing to like bring the civilization to a halt. I mean, it only takes one little virus, you know, to like change our lives, right? So there's all these kind of things that like what we think we have oftentimes is only momentarily, you know, had. And so it's just kind of an interesting thing. It makes me think more calmly about like my goals and about my aspirations when I put it in that context. It doesn't mean that you know, it could knock you in the dirt and make you not want to do anything, you know, or it could be like, oh wow, I've only got so much time, I should get busy.
Yeah. I mean, I know, but I suppose kind of adding to what you just said, that's why enjoying the process is so important, because like when you've done something, the gratification from that particular end point is momentary, you know. It's like, okay, cool. Especially with like, say, like doing an album or something, you know, you work all that time to kind of like get a product, and you know, I mean, I like the recording process. I like kind of like you know, adding bits, going into my car, listening to like, you know, mixes and stuff, and then being like, okay, no, it needs this, or I'm going to chop this section out, and you know, and just all that stuff that goes into like making a record, for example. And then when you put it out, you literally just, I mean, I know with that album, I didn't do any physical copies or anything. I just uploaded it to DistroKid, and it just went to all the like digital things. And I was just like, as soon as I hit upload on DistroKid, and then they went, oh yeah, this is going to take like 4 weeks before it will go out, and then I'll give them the date and everything. That was it.
Yeah.
All of that build up to just go send, and that was it, you know. And then just do a few videos and stuff. But like, I suppose the gratification is in that, I suppose, for other people when they, you know, they listen to the album and hopefully they enjoy it or whatever, and then it just is like a repeat thing that they get out of it, because I'm not sitting around listening to my albums every day, or, you know, because once I'm done with the recording process, I've heard all those songs a fucking million times. So it's for the audience to kind of go and do that now, and they don't necessarily see all the time and hours and hours and hours that you put into this stuff, pouring over it, making sure it's the way it needs to be before you present it to the world. But that's the process that, and I enjoy that. Like, some people find it like pulling teeth. So doing a record is just a means to an end for some sort of like, I don't know, maybe some financial gain, or maybe they just like need to do it to fulfill a contract, or whatever it is that the reason that you're doing it for. But the actual process is like murderous at the same time, and you just don't enjoy it. I think that's the shame that I would feel if I don't know, I'm looking back on my life and I see all the different records I've done and all the different things, and be like, yeah, I achieved a lot in my life, but it fucking sucked, you know? I think that would be like the worst thing to think about. And obviously I don't have that feeling, you know. Pretty much everything I've done in my life, I've found ways to enjoy the process of getting something done. But getting the actual thing done has not been the pinnacle of that experience. That's only for then other people to experience. And then you just move on to the next thing. But like, you know, eventually if I ever, you know, I'm kind of lucky enough to be on my deathbed and I can, you know, think about or contemplate my life before the ultimate experience of death, I suppose, I can sort of look back and go, yeah, you know what, I actually enjoyed the time it took to build that legacy, as you put it. instead of just doing it for the legacy, for other people to appreciate when you're gone. Because it's like, well, you're not going to get to enjoy that, because you can't then enjoy that once you've sort of become worm food. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Worm food. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's well, that's why I think you get, there's an element of humility, right, around knowing that. And I don't think enough people really confront themselves with it. Not that it needs to be like morbid or all the time, but there is a sense of like groundedness and humility when we know that whether you make millions and billions or you barely scrape by in this lifetime or somewhere in between, whether everybody knows your name or nobody knows your name, like we all basically end up in a similar place, as far as we know. As far as the physical body is concerned. Well,
I mean, that's the thing. I was slightly disappointed that, like, because my dad passed away like 3 years ago or something, 2018, like just before Halloween. And I know he was kind of like, sort of, well, he was religious, so he was Catholic. So, and we'd have chats about it and stuff like that. And he believed in God and he was quite religious and stuff. Whereas I'm probably more of an atheist in that respect. Like, I don't denounce the existence of religion and stuff, but I don't necessarily believe in personally myself. I don't know. I really haven't worked out what it is that I like believe, but if I do believe anything, it won't be based on anything factual that I would have smelt, tasted, or touched. You know what I mean? So I think that's the thing. I have trouble with faith, I suppose. But I kind of did think about it. I was just like, well, he knows that I feel that way, and that if he dies, and there is a way to kind of communicate back and go, yeah, this death thing, it's actually all right. I've come here now, and it's awesome. That he would have come back and gone, yeah, don't worry about it. This is all good. But like in the last 3 years or whatever, there's been no communication on his part. To come back,
Morse code.
No, to come back and go, yeah, it's actually all right. So I don't know. Like, I don't know if he found.
Well, they say no news is good news.
Well, yeah, no. Maybe the signal is terrible in heaven, and he can't. It's just not going through. Like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Well, it might just be that's the deal. It's like you get to heaven, and it's like, no, there's no Wi-Fi here, bro. You got to. Yeah. That was the earthly thing.
Leave your phones, laptops, and sharp objects at the gate. It's like going onto a fucking airplane.
I love it. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. My grandma passed away about 4 years ago, right. And she's super, religious, and I went to church with her a ton when I was little, and my mom has taken on kind of a similar, similar vibe, and they both very much, like, I actually just, my mom, she came to visit and she's like, oh, will you go to church with me? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, like, I'll go because I love you, man. You're my mom. And like, and she's so hyped on it that like, I can't deny her the thing. But what I noticed after all these years of not going to church and then showing up and then like, having all the yoga and kind of Buddhism and like different kind of religious studies that I've been going through the last 5-6 years, like I've really been able to like shift. It all feels universal to me, even though they have that go to a church and they're going to have their certain ways of talking about everything. And they reference a Bible and all these things and rules and blah, blah, blah. At the base of it, I look around the room and I'm like, oh, these people are all looking for some sort of meaning. Right. Like, and some, because the world is a crazy place. And if you when you're out there, not connected to a group or don't feel like you belong somewhere, it can feel really lonely and feel like, like what, I mean, the sun's going to explode. Why do anything, like, eventually type of thing. So to find a group of people that like, kind of like keep a day sacred, and they all show up on Sunday and they all sing songs together and they all hope for the best for each other, And like, that's cool. Like, I'm like, my mom's that person. She's pretty simple in that way. She's like, I just want the best for everybody. And I'm like, okay, it's not really my jam. I've just, it's like, it's old news to me, even though it's still, I still, you know, dig like the basics of it, like the, you know, but I kind of just see it as a universal thing now. I'm like, oh, like I might say universe or, you know, like, you know, and that's how I honestly like think about God is like, oh, the great isness of whatever, where we find ourselves. We find ourselves in this,
isness.
the great isness, you know?
No, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely more along the lines of thinking that, you know, there is a universal plan probably. Like, I mean, especially recently with stuff that's been happening in my life at the moment, it's like, it's
Really?
too much. It's too much like outside plan for it to be coincidence, I suppose. You know, with some of the things that have been, well, most of the things that have been happening lately, and I'm just like, wow, it's really like, because all along, like in your life, I guess there are signs of things that might happen later on. It might be like tomorrow, it might be next week, it might be 10 years from now. But it's funny, like, I don't know whether it's the benefit of hindsight, because you can only really ever look back on that stuff and go, oh yeah, I remember this was a thing, and if I'd have noticed it then, I would have. You can only really tie that stuff in after the fact. But definitely more recently, it's been stuff where you're like, I don't know whether I'm manifesting this or it, because it just feels like if it's meant to happen, it's happening. And things that, even plans that you make, they change, not through your own doing or anything like that. And then something comes out of that you're like, well, I was trying to do that anyway, but I was obviously not doing it the right way. And so there's some sort of universal correction going on. I don't know, like, I'm much more of that kind of school of thought, I suppose, than actually believing in an entity or person that governs everything, all life. You know?
Yeah, so that's kind of, in a way, it's more of an Eastern way, like so, like, you know, kind of, well, Eastern's hard to say when you talk about the Bible and stuff, but like Middle East and stuff, in the way that the Judeo-Christian stuff, this, like, there's a big guy in the sky with a white beard, or, you know, there's a Jesus, and there's like there's a figurehead that is like in control of it all, and like there's a personality associated with it and all this stuff. And that's the part where I think, you know, it's easy, like, if you look at it psychologically, like, people can analyze and say, well, you know, I don't know that God created man. It looks like man created that God, you know, and in man's likeness, because we don't know anything else. But when you look at the more Far East, you know, and the way, and even like India and stuff, like, but more in the Far East, I guess the feeling of like creation and God, it's more of like a faceless entity that just kind of is on, it's more of an automatic model, you know, that things are moving and evolving, and they have, you know, law, you could say there's laws to life and to nature and stuff, but those are things that we associate, that we label it that, right? Like that's kind of, more than anything, I think that we have to like dial back and say, okay, like, as you said, I don't know if I'm manifesting this thing or if it's like, you know, what it is. And really in that model, it's a mutual arising, right? Like, there's not one causing the other thing. It's like, they're just kind of like, these moments are drawn together throughout your experience, and then over time you're like, oh wow, you know, it kind of felt like I almost did that, and then it affected that, but then there's all these weird little things that would say that it was already in motion before I did the thing. So
I mean, I don't think we're ever gonna, like, I think there's like obviously certain meditations and things that you can do that will allow you to tune yourself into a more definitive description of why that happens. But I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm not really disciplined enough to kind of go that far into it, but things do happen, and you're like, you know. But yeah, it's like, you know, do you ever get a choice, or you know, is it like predetermined, like everything that you do, even if you think that you're going to trick fate, and in the last second go, no, I'm going to do this? Did it already know that you were going to do that, or I don't know, did you somehow sidestep the universe in some way?
There's a couple of really good Rick and Morty episodes that deal with that. I don't know if you ever got into Rick and Morty at all, but
Not really. I know you watch it, but I haven't really.
Yeah. I probably tried to make you watch it in LA last time you were there.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I'm like, let's get stoned and watch Rick and Morty. You're like, oh man, I don't know. All right, fine, let's check it out. There's like, yeah, that's a really interesting point, man. I don't know. Well, we won't know, but that's kind of the good news, I think, ultimately. In having an attitude that you have, like, is kind of interestingly Zen, right? Because it's like, again, I look at it as like, you're not wasting a whole lot of extra effort trying to figure it out. No. But you do stop to be curious and marvel at what happened. You're like, oh, that plus that, like, well, okay, well, I don't really have time or the capacity to sort this out, but that is interesting. Let's keep moving.
I mean, even to just kind of like look up every once in a while and take that stuff in, I think is important. Because again, there's a lot of things that you can, wonder and marvel at that happen in life that are actually like, if you just take a step back and at least try and recognize what it is, even if you can't quantify it into any like solid thought or sentence, it can tell you a lot about yourself, I think. And I don't know. I think in that because I fuck up. I say stupid things all the time, or like I do things that I'm just like, why the fuck did you do that? But I guess in the moment though that those things are happening, at least try and catch yourself and be like, or at least try and understand, make any sort of like reparations. So I guess that's kind of like the same sort of thinking what you're doing. But I don't know if that's necessarily, because I know in religion, you have that, obviously there's a set of rules and you have to follow them. And if you deviate outside of that, then you've kind of done wrong or fucked up or whatever. But I guess
you create a bunch of guilt, unneeded guilt.
Yeah. But I guess the kind of like the rules outside of that are like, you just know, don't you? You get a feeling when something's gone wrong or it ain't right, or you get a feeling from someone that you've done something, or there are usually times in my life where I've just kind of had to sit down and reflect a little bit and gone, right, I need to try and recognize what that is and why that's happening, and then try and fix it, I suppose.
Yeah, the best you can anyway. Some things we have to live with that are just kind of just the way they are, and we have to live with other people not being okay with whatever we did or said or something for a while until they can sort themselves out. Which can be difficult, at times, but it's like one of the necessary tensions for the next wave of our learning process, our growth process, so that we can attempt to be more coherent or more able and willing to meet the situation in the moment the next time.
I guess this is basically all part of the process, isn't it? Enjoying the process. And that applies to general life, I suppose, as well as anything else.
No, well, thanks for bringing it back around, Andy. That's exactly it, right? Like, enjoy the journey, right? Because if we're always shooting off and like, what do they say? They say like, okay, somebody that can't live now is never going to, isn't able to make valid plans for the future and will never enjoy the thing when they get there. So if you practice enjoying the now, if you practice like luxuriating in what's present, or at least accepting what's present if it's not luxurious, accept being in that state of humility and acceptance, then when good things do come, then like you can actually enjoy them, right? Like you can enjoy even though it's like, oh, I actually kind of enjoyed the whole making of the album better than pressing upload. At least it's still gratifying to press upload.
Oh, of course.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there is a certain relief that comes with that as well, because you don't have to sit in your car for 10 hours, like stuff. I can fucking listen to something else now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sure. I've been dealing with that recently, like finishing certain things, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of hearing myself in this same thing all the time.
Well, actually, that's kind of it's interesting you bring that up, because I feel like, because obviously I have to listen to this stuff like a lot when I'm working on it and before anyone even hears it, right? I feel good about pressing upload when I know that even though I've heard all of these songs probably 100, 200 times in various different iterations before they've landed on the as the finished article, and I can still listen to it, even though I don't, I'm not putting it on and going, oh, I want to listen to myself because I'm amazed at what I've done. It's not like that. It's just like if a song comes on, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm still happy with that. I'm totally satisfied with the way that turned out. It makes it kind of like, it makes it worth it, definitely. And also I know from a songwriting point of view as well, that if I hear something and I know that I don't ever listen to any of, like, especially like the last 2 records I've done, I don't listen to any of those and gone, oh God, I wish I'd have done that. Or I wish it didn't sound like that, or I wish it didn't go that way, or, I don't have any of that with that. I mean, maybe previous stuff I have that, but the last 2 records, like, definitely not. I can just, they're the songs and that's how they were meant to be. And I didn't, even though I got sick of probably hearing it over and over again, it didn't make me hate the song or think like, oh my God, and then lose that like excitement of getting someone else to hear it. You know what I mean? Because if it doesn't annoy me during the process and it gets to it and I've heard it a million times and I'm still happy with it, then I know that it's going to make some people happy at least.
Yeah, that's great. That means you're having a very thorough process. Your vetting process is thorough. And then by the time you're there, you're like, I may want to listen to something else for a while, but like, I'm proud of this. I'll let it go.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I would ever want to do is like upload and put out and be like, well, it is what it is. I think if I ever got to that point, I'm kind of done with releasing new music, because I always feel that if you feel that way about anything that you put out, it's already going to put that negative energy in the song, and people are just going to go online and be like, what the fuck's this? Like, it's obviously just phoning it in or can't be bothered. And that's that. At least if people do have that opinion about my stuff up to now, it isn't because of lack of effort on my part. It's probably just musical choices that I've made that don't necessarily rub someone else the right way, and that's it. But you can't manage individual expectation like that,
No, that's not possible. What do you have any foresight or thoughts about what you might do in the next couple? I mean, I know this is kind of a funky question, but like next 2 or 3 solo records, like, do you have any kind of whimsical thoughts about like, oh, maybe I'll do like a blues album, or maybe I'll do a country, or I know that's crazy, but have you thought about anything kind of drastically kind of shaking it up a little bit in that respect?
No, I mean, I've got a few things lying around, like songs that are sort of done, that I could put out if I wanted. I mean, that the last song that I put out, that Falcon God, that was sitting around for like a year before I did anything with that.
Oh, that's a sick song, dude. I love that song.
Oh, cheers. But I just didn't. I was like, oh, is it going to sit on an album? Is it going to do it? And then I just thought, I don't know whether I'm going to do another solo record as a entire, here's 10, 12 songs on a CD with artwork. I feel like now, because of the way things are working with Death Punch and stuff, that obviously my priority is going to be, working on any new music that we're doing. But that's kind of coming to an end, or hopefully by the end of the year we'll be pretty much done with that. And then that might kind of free up some bandwidth to think about other stuff. But I do get like these moments where I just start working on something and think, like I'll hear something, or like quite often at the moment, I listen to like royalty-free music, just like samples, loops, bits and pieces that are just lying around that I'm not going to get in trouble if I decide to sort of like do something. But like quite often now, like for guitar riff ideas and stuff like that, I'll be listening to some sort of synthwave line that's just on a royalty-free library, and I'll be like, oh, that's cool, and then learn it on guitar and do something. Because I feel like now, if I just have a guitar and just sit there and write riffs, they are just inherently guitar riffs, if you know what I mean. Whereas if I kind of take an outside influence from another instrument that might move in a certain different way, like CSIL, right? That was very much a guitar-driven record. There wasn't anything that was inspired by anything electronic on that. They were just, sitting around in my studio with my iPhone, And if I get like, if I'm just jamming or practicing or whatever, and I get a cool idea, like Valley of Shadows, that song, right? I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden, this kind of picking idea happened in between this riff. I thought, oh, that was cool. So I've got all these like rough ideas of where these songs started on my iPhone. And then I've got like 40 or 50 ideas on there. And I think I just went through like stuff that I thought I could develop into songs. And that's how that album came about. But the album before Arrival, that was way more orientated around the electronic, in terms of like how I came up with some of those riffs and ideas, especially like Equinox, for example. That riff wasn't even, that was a riff that was on some synth loop that I found in a plugin, and I just hit like an arpeggiator, and that was the thing. It was in a completely different key, completely different speed, but I just liked the order of the notes, and I thought, well, I wonder if I try and like put that, you know, up, make it a bit more upbeat, put it in a key that's like comfortable for me to write a song in, and then see if I can play it as a guitar riff. So if you listen to that song, that guitar riff was, I didn't sit there and write that as a guitar riff. That was just something else that happened, and I put it in a different key, sped it up, and the whole song came out of that. But so I try and find inspiration from like other things now that maybe aren't guitar orientated, just because it kind of pushes me in a different thing. Because here's the thing, like over like 28 years of playing guitar now, I have enough experience and understand how I can take what I know and what I do and insert it into pretty much everything. So like if someone wanted me to play on a blues record, I could do, you know, I could take what I know and manipulate it in some way that would sound like it would fit on a blues album, but not necessarily be a blues guitar player. The same as I could probably do that with a country thing as well. So like I know that I have whatever it is that drives me musically, and I can manipulate it to work in any given scenario, even if, say, like the theory and the actual credibility that comes along with being a certain artist within a genre isn't there, if you know what I mean. Because I know my strength. I know what I'm basically a metal rock player, you know, and I don't deviate from that, because I'm not doing albums that suddenly have a blues song and a jazz song and a country song and a metal song. I mean, for the listener, it's a little bit disjointed when that happens anyway. I'm not really keen when other guitar players do that. It's like, look, pick a fucking genre and just do that. and maybe find your flow within that genre and right. change up the pace and everything in a record, but at least have some sort of cohesive sound to it, you know.
Yeah, that is the thing that instrumental guitar players oftentimes like, I'm going to show how diverse I am, and still they'll try to do the jazz song, they'll do the blues song, oh, here's your rock tune, and here, oh, now here's this thing, and then it's like, well, okay, so what is your sound? What is it that you're trying to achieve here? And you get, you know, some people can do it, you know, but I prefer something that's got like, but I think this is also coming from like, we're a little older than the generation that's out there too, and we also listen to a lot of albums, right? Like I think there's and you create albums. That's what one of the things that I really dig is, I mean, you drop a single here and there that it's often not on an album, but you historically have been like one to like find a flavor and go, oh, okay, now I can kind of see what's going on, and this album is this flavor, and it might have a ballad, it may have this, but it all kind of sits within this area. And then the next album, and that Arrival was actually the album that I was thinking of when I was mentioning CSIL, like, because like I remember Arrival was the departure from kind of what you had done previously, right? We had more electronic influence. That's right. Yeah, I kind of confused those two, but yeah, that's it's an interesting place. And so I guess what would be interesting to know is like, what else are you said a lot of what you're listening to these days is kind of like your kind of royalty free stuff. Like what are some of the things that you like are really enjoyable to you outside of like the guitar community? Like, is there any artists or any albums that you've kind of heard recently that you're like, that really like does it for me when I'm not wanting to listen to all the guitar stuff?
It's not really any particular like one artist or genre. I just find myself now going on to say like Spotify or Apple Music and just finding like playlists of completely different things and just like having them on. And then every so often something will kind of like, you know, prick my ear up or whatever, but like but yeah, I just find myself like doing that, just kind of like letting it wash over me, not having any choice in the matter, but it be a particular, say, like if it's, I don't know, some sort of like R&B playlist or some sort of trap playlist or some sort of, you know, even if it's like rock or blues or anything, and just because I feel like now is like the time if you want to discover a wide range of like different music and stuff, and you're not just buying an album on a whim from a record shop, because you know we're both obviously old enough to have had that experience where like we didn't have streaming, we didn't have all this, so we would either have had to have heard something on some sort of chart show or like you know, like things. I mean, we had Top of the Pops over here where it'd be like, well, there's the top 10 for this week, and then you'd be like, oh right, cool, and then you go and buy that album, and then it'd be nothing like the song they put out or something. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, like now it's just it's probably the best and worst time to be a musician in terms of like the revenue streams. Obviously, aren't in favor of the artist, but at the same time, as a consumer, you're just exposed to like all this other shit that you would just never even like go and you wouldn't buy the record in a shop because you probably wouldn't know anything about it or whatever. So music discovery now I think is better than it's ever been, you know. So for me, I just go through these things now and just let them play, and then all of a sudden I can, if I hear something that's cool, I'll be like, oh okay, what's that? And then and then so you can go down all these different like rabbit holes of like artists and stuff, and find things that you wouldn't normally be interested in.
Yeah, I do enjoy that. I do find myself a little bit, because of the bubble, because of the technological bubble, at times I feel I have to think outside the box, maybe even search. Like sometimes I'll do a Google search and just try to find like stuff that I haven't, that I didn't catch. Like, and I know that like there's like Wikipedia or something like Wikipedia or something, you can search like releases for 2021, you know, and it's got like in order all the stuff that's come out, you know, or is about to come out, that's staged to come out, which is kind of a cool tool sometimes, because I'm not tuned into every artist that I like, you know, necessarily. And you can't even do it these days. Like I might like 1,000, I might follow 1,000 pages on Instagram, but Jesus, you don't see all their content, you know. So
you miss releases and stuff. Like, I mean, I didn't even realize Slipknot put a new song out until yesterday.
Oh, really?
I think Corner put in something. It's like, but I miss all this stuff that I probably would have been way more in tune with if I was kind of in touch with more conventional ways of finding that sort of music, like having music TV channels and stuff like we had, you know.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I miss that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, it's super convenient. Well, regardless, man, it's cool to hear where you're at now, and how things are kind of circling around, and kind of like in a way coming full circle from like you said, like, hey, you know, sometimes you don't know, like the premonition, like that's why I keep kind of looking back to the conversations we had around EMG TV. I'm like, it's just interesting to be witness to that thing, and then to see these years later, to see the thing actually be manifested into place, and all these different things. Your life, it wasn't a straight arrow, it wasn't a straight line to get to where you're at. Like it was a zigzag at best, right? And so you know, enjoying the process of where you've been at in each stage, I think is a really good example of like what, you know, that you could set, so to speak, or, you know, and show off to others that are interested in finding their way in the world, in the musical world, is to like, you know, stay with what you think, follow your intuition, and know that like, you know, developing the craft and being present for what's happening right now is most important, because those bigger, long-term, lofty goals kind of probably will sort themselves out if you're doing the right amount of work and you're, you know, out there hitting the streets. Then like these things come to those people that don't start shit on the internet and don't try to like, you know, I mean, I don't want to say that that's probably not right, because a lot of people start shit on the internet and get big. Well, but you know, it's a different kind of
thing usually.
Yeah, wrong thing usually. Exactly. So it's just good to see it all in an interesting, good place for you, despite, you know, there of course there's still struggle, and there's still things going on in your life, I'm sure, but but in a better place, you know, than they have been previously, right? So
yeah.
Thanks for hanging out and spending some time, man. I appreciate it. And
no worries, man. No worries. Anytime.
I hope, man. I hope that your stay in the UK is good, and when you head back to Vegas, I'll have to make another trip down and come and hang out.
Yeah, definitely, mate.
Players Pick Podcast, Picks and Perspective with Chrys Johnson.